Okay, for section 1.2, I'd like to go over a few of the vocabulary words on page 17 before we get started. The first word is addends, and that's kind of a new and different word you don't hear all the time, but basically those are simply the digits that we're going to add. The sum is the answer to an addition problem. The difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. A polygon is simply a sided figure. Poly means many, so it's just simply a many-sided shape. And then perimeter is the distance, the outside of a shape or an object. Okay? Let's start with looking at objective number 1, which is find the sum of two or more whole numbers. You can write it a couple of different ways depending on what works best for you. I personally like the vertical way as shown here. I think it's easier to see than the horizontal way written above. So when you're doing a problem, such as problem number 1 in the homework section, you can just simply add 8 and 5. You'll get 13. You have only one spot you can put into the ones column, so the 1 has to carry over. So that then means that you have 7 and 3 is 10, plus the 1 that you carried gives you a total of 113. Same thing for problem number 4. It's simply a 3-digit number. You have either can write it horizontal or vertical. Again, my preference is that I kind of like the vertical way. I think it's easier to read. So we have 5 plus 7 gives us the 2. We carry the 1 because we can only put one digit in each of these kind of columns here. 2 and 6 is 8, plus the 1 is 9. There's nothing to carry because we didn't go over the columns. And then 1 and 7 gives us our 8, either direction. Over here, problem 11, we have 4 addends. So we have the 7, 85, 607, and 5090. Written vertically, we have this. Now notice how I line them up, because each one of these is a column. This is the ones column, the tens column, hundreds column, thousands column. So what we can do is we can add zeros in here to kind of fill in our blanks if we want. So then all of our columns have the same number of digits. Sometimes that's easier to read. If that helps you, it's a good instructional aid. And then we just do our regular addition. 7 and 5 is 12, plus 7 gives us 19. That carries. 8 and 9 are 17, plus the 1 we carried is 18. Again, we can only put one digit in each one of our answers, so that has to carry over. We have the 1 that we carried, the 6 we have, gives us a total of 7. We have 0, 0, 0, and 5 gives us our answer. Okay, subtraction, same way. They're just simply asking you to either do it vertically or horizontally, to again, whatever works best for you. I like, as I mentioned, vertically, then I can do my borrowing easier. So if I take 2 from 6, because this is my number, I'm subtracting 72 from 406. I can take 2 from 6. That gives me my 4. But I have 0 in the tens column here, and I'm trying to take 7 from it. Well, I can't do that. I don't have anything to borrow. So I have to borrow from the hundreds column. Since I have 4, I can make that 3, and I can borrow 10 tens, which gives me the 100. So that's why that is now, the 0 now becomes 10, because I borrowed 1 from the 4, made that a 3. Now I can take 7 from 10, gives me 3. I have nothing here, so I can fill in my spots if I want. Taking 0 from 3 gives me 3. Now is an example of problem 17 in our homework. The next, that was objective 2, find the difference between two numbers. Objective 3 is asking us to find the answer by estimation, and that's front-end estimation. So in this particular problem, the front end is in the 100 spot. Okay, this is what they're calling the front end estimation, so the largest place value in the number. And what the goal of estimation is for us to be able to do it in our head. So we're going to use our rounding skills that we learned in the last section to round these numbers to something we can round in our head fairly easy. So 54, again, if we're rounding to the front end or the largest value, which is 100s, taking this one and the one behind it, so 54, remember our rounding rules, that's going to round down. So that becomes 50. Everything behind that is going to go to 0. There's nothing in front since we're rounding to the largest value. So 546 rounds to 500. Okay, our other one is 577. Again, we're going to use our rounding rules. 57, 7 is going to round up, so 57 is closest to 60. Everything behind goes to zeros. So our new problem then is 500 plus 600. 5 plus 6 is 11, and it's 1100 because we're both in the hundreds column. The original problem was maybe a little tougher to do in the head, and estimation or rounding wasn't too bad. Again, we can use that same front-end estimation skill to subtract. Rules don't change, so 67 is going to get closest to 70. Everything behind goes to zeros, so 675 rounds to 700. We're going to subtract from that 349. 34 is going to round down because 4 rounds down. It's going to become 30, and again we add the 0 because everything behind goes to 0, remember. So 700 take away 300 is going to give us an estimation of 400. Okay? The next goal is to find the perimeter of a polygon. Now, I've done some sample polygons here from our homework. Problem number 45 here is a square with sides of 11. So if this is 11, that's 11. We know that this other side and the top are also going to be 11. So we have 4 sides. They're all 11 centimeters. This is the abbreviation for centimeters. So we simply add them all up, and we would have 44 centimeters. Problem number 46, again, this is a triangle. All the sides are listed, so we don't have to fill anything in, and all we have to do then is add up the sides. You can either do it on paper, pencil, or on your calculator. 17, 13 is 30 plus 8, which is a total of 38 feet. Problem number 48 is a rectangle. Notice they only gave you 2 values. Because it's a rectangle, by definition, this side is equal to that side. So if the bottom's 24, the top then will be 24. And if one of the sides is 2, the other side is also going to be 2. So we can fill them in if we want, or we can use the formula 2 lengths plus 2 widths equals our answer. Okay, so we can use our formula if we'd like. The length is 24, so we have 2 times 24, which gives us 48, plus 2 widths, which is 2, gives us 4. So our answer is going to be 52. And if you prefer, we just fill in all of our sides, and we add them up, and we're still going to get 52 kilometers. For problem number 50, they don't give you too much information, but they give you just enough to solve it. So what they're asking you to do on this particular problem, I would recommend that you fill in all your missing numbers. They said that these long sides are all going to be 10. So I would fill in 10 for all of these lengths. They also indicate then that each one of these shorter sides are all going to be 4. So I would fill in 4 for all of these missing sides. Because once I do that, then all I have to do then is simply add up all of the sides, and it becomes a much easier problem once I see it. When we do that, all of my big sides, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives me 40, because we're 4 times the 10. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 times 4, and I had 4 times 10. So I would have another 32, and then I can add those together to get a total of 72 centimeters. I would strongly recommend, I call it what do you know, by filling in all of these missing values before you do the problem. I find it's much, much easier to do once you've done that. Good luck.